I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I saw the highlights. I was in Chris and Bad Dog stream listening to what they were talking about throughout the game, basically the whole entire game. And I got a chance to watch the highlights, which was about 10 minutes worth of the game. I heard they were playing a lot of zone, and basically in the highlights that I watched myself, I mean, they definitely played a ton of zone in that game for the majority of the game. And what I'm trying to figure out is, man, you know, this is a New Orleans Saints team that was missing Chris Olave, their main pass catcher in that offense. He's the main cog of that offense. Taysom Hill's banged up. Taysom Hill had, what, 1 catch and 1 rush in that game. That was about all he was used. So the Saints were down to Keith Kirkwood, A.T. Perry, Lynn Bowden, and Rashid Shaheed. Out of that list of names right there, who are you scared of in that offense? Out of that list of players that I just named, outside of Rashid Shaheed, he's the only player in that list of names that can legitimately stretch the field for the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a team whose their whole entire offense has produced from 3 players basically the entire year. It's been Chris Olave, it's been Taysom Hill, and it's been Alvin Kamara. And one of those guys was completely out of the picture, was not even on the field. And we still gave up 24 points to the New Orleans Saints. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense to even play zone with that kind of personnel on the field. Why wouldn't you just match up your corners man to man against guys like Keith Kirkwood, A.T. Perry, Rashid Shaheed, and see how things work out? And don't let me forget Lynn Bowden, because everybody's afraid of Lynn. Who the hell is Lynn Bowden? Please explain to me who Lynn Bowden is. I couldn't even tell you anything Lynn Bowden has done this year or in years past. I have no idea who Lynn Bowden is. I couldn't even tell you what college he went to. Like, did he come from a different league before this season started? Because I sure as hell don't know that guy. I don't know why Wink was so worried about this group of personnel that he was going up against. Like, even with Kamara coming out of the backfield, man, and I said in a video, the last video that I made, the Giants, statistically, they are one of the best teams when it comes to defending against pass-catching running backs. Statistically, they are. But when you're playing zone and all your linebackers are dropping back in coverage and you don't have a spy on somebody like him, you don't have to worry about spying Carr because he ain't going anywhere. If you're going to put a spy on somebody, of course you're going to put it on Kamara coming out of the backfield because he's the biggest threat to catch the ball out of the backfield because he does it game in, game out. So why are you playing zone? You mean to tell me Deonte Banks, Adoree Jackson, Cordell Flott can't match up against what the New Orleans Saints were putting out there on that field yesterday? I find that very hard to believe. And again, with Kamara, when you're playing zone and your linebackers are dropping back in coverage, man, when he catches the ball out of the backfield, you're automatically giving that man like a 5-yard cushion to gain a head of steam, before he even approaches your defenders. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sure to many out there, it doesn't make any sense to you. So I'm not too sure exactly what Wink was thinking with his game plan that he brought out there to New Orleans.
Especially against a quarterback who has struggled all season long to punch the ball to the end zone.
Offensive line struggled with stunts. And I want to give a shout out to the Big Blue crew. They called this out games and games ago. I mean, probably within the first 5 games of the season, they were talking about how this New York Giants offensive line couldn't guard against a stunt. Nobody on that line couldn't pick up a stunt. If you had a defensive end coming from one side of the line and then coming to attack your right guard or left guard, it was game over. They weren't going to pick it up. So, I want to give them their props on calling that out a long, long time ago. And like I said, I listen to a lot of Giants content creators on here. So I got a pretty good idea what everybody's talking about. So, but yeah, they definitely called that one out weeks and weeks ago. So, I mean, they were on that before I think a lot of people were. And now basically everybody's talking about that. So Pat, Lou, Mac, all them guys on the Big Blue crew, I mean, you guys know who you are. I mean, I want to give you all your props when it comes to, talking about the stunt issues the Giants offensive line has had basically the entire season. Offensively, man, Barkley couldn't get anything going. Of course, the offensive line played bad, just based off what I was just talking about. Barkley had, 14 yards on, 11 or 12 attempts, something like that. That's just inexcusable, man. Inexcusable. I mean, it really is. Even if the line is playing bad, man, it's like Barkley's got to produce a little bit more than that, you would think. I mean, I'm not saying an astronomical amount more, but man, maybe you should be in like the 35, 40-yard range at least, even with a struggling offensive line, especially if you want to get paid this offseason. I mean, you are supposed to be one of the best running backs in the league. I mean, you should be able to produce when things aren't exactly the way they should be. Wando Robinson came out, had 25 yards. I think Slayton came out, had like 60. He had the most yards out of our wide receiver core. Darren Waller was basically a non-factor for most of the game. He was on snap count. Waller had he had one catch over the middle that I saw where, you know, DeVito hit him with a pretty nice pass. It was a little bit behind him, but I mean, he reined it in. He caught the ball, bounced off the one defender, and ran up the field for like another 10 yards. So that was a good play by Waller, but other than that, I mean, he really wasn't a factor. And going back to this defense, man, this defense, I mean, they let a guy like Jimmy Graham come out there. Now, Jimmy Graham, especially in the red zone, I mean, the Saints do have a tendency to use Jimmy Graham. They use a lot of their tight ends. Like, they'll also use Foster Moreau a lot in the red zone also. But, what's his name? What's that other tight end they have? Number 83, Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson, and I feel like a lot of people didn't really know who Juwan Johnson was, because I've heard a lot of people make their post-game videos, and they were talking about number 83. I'm like, Juwan Johnson on that team last year, he was a very good pass-catching tight end for that team last year, especially when they weren't really using Taysom Hill, and they really didn't have any other tight end options. I mean, they were using Juwan Johnson a heck of a lot in that offense. And he scored a good amount of touchdowns last year. He was very productive. So I'm not surprised by anything he did. They really haven't been turning to him very much this year, especially in comparison to what they did with him last year. But still, with the personnel that was out on the field, I thought the Giants, I mean, I picked the Giants going into this game. I mean, last week, I definitely had my doubts. I thought it was a tough place to play. It's New Orleans. The Giants have always struggled playing there, even back to the Eli days. So, but, I mean, especially after I heard Olave was going to be out, and I knew Taysom Hill was going to be banged up, I was like, well, if we contain Kamara, I think that we got a pretty good chance to win the game, but the offense just couldn't get anything going. I mean, it seemed like everything was just foreign out, and just drives were just stalling out. We really couldn't get anything going. And it's extremely disappointing, man, and it pisses me off again that, you know, we won those previous 3 games, because it's all for naught. It's all for naught. They mean nothing. Everybody was happy for 3 weeks, and now we're sitting here like, everybody's got stupid face, man. Stupid face. Like, what do we do now? Yeah, we got to draft a quarterback. No, that's what I was talking about a couple weeks ago.